welcome to the Youth Got Next podcast. I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Isaac Sladen, and I'm here with
YPT is what everybody likes to call me these days. Youth
YPT.
Pastor Tom.
Yes, and we are on the Flyover Bible plan that we've been going through. We're on stop number 7 today.
Yeah.
And if you're following along with us, this is pages 52 through 54 in the Wayfinding Bible, and this is stop number 7. And we're going to be going over the story today of Jacob wrestling with God, which is there's a lot that goes into this story. And even reading through it, it's kind of like, at least for me, it really just like makes me think a little bit about and try to put myself in this story of what it possibly could have looked like.
Part of me just wants to go, ouch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we're on the Flyover plan. So I think we need to talk about what's happening as a backdrop to the story briefly.
Yeah.
Jacob is married. He's got 2 wives. He's had a bunch of boys. And they are leaving his in-laws because he's decided to kind of make a break. And after 21 something years of living with them, he's going to go back to his home country. And on the way, he is nervous because he knows he's going to run into his brother Esau, who he has not seen in over 2 decades. And the last time they met, Esau basically said, "Bro, you're dead," because of what happened where Jacob stole the birthright and the blessing and all this other stuff. So what he's been doing is sending his family along ahead of him.
Yeah.
And he's last. He's waited the night. He's hanging out by the side of a creek, a river.
We see the strategy for his mind. This is there. He's been thinking about this for a while.
He's playing this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to send all the sheep and the cattle and the servants, and then my family last because, we don't want them to get hurt. But then it's me last because it's me that he threatened to kill. He'll probably have mercy on my family, but he wants me dead.
Yeah.
And he spends the night, and then you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, he spends the night. And he's wrestling with this man, but what we see as we read through the story, he's wrestling with God.
Yeah.
He is physically, which it just blows my mind to think about. He's physically wrestling with God, not just in his mind with him.
This isn't a vision.
Yeah, no, this is
a
actually
physical interaction.
This is happening.
Yeah. And what's wild to me is God says, "Hey, I'm done." And Jacob says, "I'm not letting go."
Yeah.
And we were talking about this as we were preparing.
Yeah.
I don't think it means that God could not beat Jacob, right?
Yeah.
This idea of God wrestling him. We would call this a theophany or a Christophany, maybe a pre-incarnate appearance of the Son of God.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that the Son of God could not beat
Jacob.
He wouldn't
lose.
Not like he's going to lose.
No, God's not going to lose.
I think it's more like if you've ever wrestled somebody before, they're just so persistent, refusing to let go. You're like, dude, I'm done. I just want to be done.
Yeah.
And God is basically saying, "Hey, it's time for me to go."
Yeah.
And Jacob says, I'm not letting go.
Yeah.
And so he says, "Hey, what's your name?" And he says, "Oh, my name's Jacob."
And
he goes, "Oh, your name's not Jacob anymore.
Not anymore.
I'm going to call you Israel." And Jacob means deceiver.
Yeah.
And Israel is chosen by God. And so here we are. We have the creation of the nation that was promised through Abraham.
Yeah.
And as they're having this conversation, Jacob says, or now Israel says, "And what's your name?" He goes, "I'm not telling you my name." And he touches his hip.
Yep.
And he takes a little piece out when he does that. And now my man Jacob, Israel, can't walk without a limp
now. He has a limp. And I think it's funny, just to picture this, the verse says that he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of the socket.
Oh.
Don't even know really how that's what that even actually looks like or means, for that to have happened. But that doesn't sound like a good time to me. I don't know. But he takes it out, and Jacob has a limp now. And I think that can also be kind of a side thing, but a picture of what maybe can happen in our life if God is leading us to something, or there's just a situation where we don't want to give up. We are persistent in wanting, to be in the fight and wanting what we want to have happen. And I think in our lives, if we continue just in this wrestle with God, we can walk away essentially with a limp, whether that's emotionally or something going on in your heart. It can hurt you, other people around you. And so I think that could even be a takeaway from this too, that we could just see in the story.
A little bit of brokenness that reminds us of our position before God.
Yeah.
It's good. So why the name change? right? Because that's common in Scripture. We see these name changes happen, and I think it's a change in the destiny
Mm.
of Jacob.
Yeah.
Because Jacob means deceiver, and if you go back and you read his history, he was regularly deceiving people. He was a
Yeah.
schemer. He was out for whatever was going to give him advantage.
Mm.
And God comes down, and when he wrestles with him, he changes his name and says, chosen by God.
Yeah.
And that changes the entire course of his family and his future
His life.
and his life.
Everything.
And so when God does that, I think so many times we see that happen throughout Scripture because it's a signifier. When God gets a hold of you,
Mm.
he changes everything about you.
Yeah.
And your name can be a signifier for that.
Yeah.
And if you would let God get a hold of you, it may not mean that you need a name change, but your life could be different
Yeah.
from today and forevermore.
Yeah. An encounter, like one encounter with God, can change the
Everything.
whole trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
For your good and his glory. And real quick, this can be a quick question I kind of want to end on, but obviously in the story, Jacob wrestles with God. Maybe someone out there's listening to this story and they find themselves in that exact type of situation. What would you say to that person as to like their first next step that they should do in that? Because that's a hard thing to walk through and like
Yeah.
a heavy thing to feel. What would you say to someone that's in the mix of like wrestling with God?
I would say if you find yourself in that spot, don't give up.
Mm.
Hang on and be like so many who said, I will submit myself to you, because that's really what's happening here.
Yeah.
He's submitting himself to God.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I want whatever it is that you have for my life. He didn't even necessarily know what that was.
Hmm.
He was just willing to submit himself to the God who made him. And he
Yeah.
figured that out after. He's like, I've wrestled with God and I lived.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah. That's definitely like I've even experienced times in my life where I have done that and I wish I didn't, and it definitely hurt, you know,
Same.
parts,
More than I
of
care to talk
yeah.
about, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Me too. And it definitely, hurt parts of my heart and it damaged relationships with other people. But
Yeah.
it really went back to like okay, I'm just gonna submit to God.
Yep.
It really just got to a point for me where it's like, okay, I've seen me try to do this how I want to on my own for so long. And I'm even more like broken than when I started. So I have no other option but to trust God. And then in those moments is where I find true peace and joy and
That's the
hope.
win.
Yeah.
That's the win. He walked around with a reminder
Yeah.
that God had touched him
Yeah.
and was going to use him.
And then it's a part of his story
It's a
now
part of
forever.
in his family story
Yeah.
too. I think that's a good reminder.
Yeah. For
Okay.
sure.
Well, thank you all for watching
Yeah.
and listening to Youth Got Next, our Jacob Wrestles with God
Mhm.
podcast. If you like this, then follow us.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to the other stuff we put out. Turn on your
Subscribe.
notifications.
Notifications,
Subscribe. Yeah.
like, comment, on these. Share this with someone you think it may benefit, and
Yeah.
we're glad you guys are here.
Until next time.
Oh, yeah.